The last two lectures were all about demand and determinants of demand. And so moving on, we have the analog of demand, which is supply. And many of the properties of supply are going to be the same as demand. And so we should be able to move pretty quickly through this. So, first thing, a few definitions. The first is quantity supplied. And just like quantity demanded, the quantity supplied is the amount that sellers are willing and able to sell. And just like we have a law of demand, there's also a law of supply. And the law of supply is the opposite of the law of demand. So the law of demand states when the price rises, people buy less of that good. Well, the law of supply says that when price rises, producers supply more of that good. The intuition, of course, is that if the price is higher, it's more profitable to sell that item. And so suppliers or sellers want to sell more of it. And just like we had demand schedules, there's also such thing as a supply schedule. And just like a demand schedule, it tells you the amount supplied of that good at various prices. So here we have our coffee market and we have a supply schedule for Starbucks. So at a price of zero, they're supplying 0 cups of coffee. Intuitively, that makes sense. There's no incentive to sell coffee if you get no revenue from selling it. And as the price goes up, they tend to sell more, right? That's what the law of supply tells us. And just like we can plot a demand schedule, we can also plot a supply schedule. We'll go 0, 0, 1, 3, 2, 6, 3, 9, 4, 12, 5, 15, and 6, 18. And once again, we can connect all these. And this is the supply curve for Starbucks. And of course, the market contains more than one supplier typically. So we can add another supplier and fill in their supply schedule. And we can plot their supply curve as well. And just like before, we can get a market supply curve by adding all the individual suppliers' quantity supplied together. And we can plot this curve as well. So all this should be very familiar, right? It's just like the demand curve, but flipped. So where demand curves sloped down, supply curves slope up. So that's it. We'll stop. And just like we talked about factors that influence demand, in the next lecture, we'll talk about factors that influence supply.